Da, da. Yeah, so tonight's topic, this 10-day period's topic is truthfulness. And uh, yeah, kind of funny without planning that we've landed on the Truth and Reconciliation Day. Some of you mentioned at the beginning of the call, and some of you in orange. Uh, I don't necessarily have anything profound to say with respect to that, but it does resonate. Uh, it's the same thing we're after, is a kind of, integrity, truth and reconciliation with the Indigenous peoples of Canada and the whole of the Americas. Being honest is what will heal us, you know? Accounting for the things that happened and people's experience of them from their point of view is the way to wholeness. So, um, yeah, with respect to our path, with respect to the far-reaching attitudes, I just love the way that it flows from the determination. So at the outset, that understanding that we want to undertake a certain course, moving into loving kindness, which is the main method we're going to use for the duration, is this cultivation of friendliness towards ourselves, towards our experience, towards those around us. And then here we get into truthfulness. So starting to be increasingly honest with ourselves and those around us about what our experience is like and about what experience itself is like. So not just a personal truth but a examined experience of the truth of of ourselves and the reality we find ourselves in. And I think it might seem like I'm stumbling on something that should be easy to talk about, but there is, if you haven't heard the teachings before, there's a division in Buddhism between conventional truth and ultimate truth. And so on the conventional side, it's true to say, for example, I'm frustrated, or I'm angry, or I'm heartbroken, I'm disappointed. When we find ourselves in conditions where we have been disappointed or hurt, it's the truth to say this hurts. I am hurt. But what is interesting and liberating on the path is that there's other truths operating. So the truth of impermanence, for example. So the truth that things are constantly changing. And that when you mix it into the truth of how you're feeling, it starts to heal the feeling. Does this make sense? So, for example, today, last few days, I've had lots of difficult feelings coming up, frustration and anxiety and, just normal human emotions. I'm sure you have too. I suspect you have too. Yeah. But so that's one truth, the truth of the storm that's passing through my mind. But it's also true to say that it won't last, that it's an impermanent feature because we're conditioned beings, because it's just a condition, it's just a storm that's passing through the sky of the mind. So this is why we can say our mantra, even when we're frustrated and there's a storm, we can say, I am peaceful, I am the nature of love, or I am enough, or whatever the mantra is, because there's nothing fixed. Everything is flowing. We ourselves, rather than being a object, a thing that can be pinpointed and isolated from the rest of the universe, we are enmeshed with the universe, and we're an unfolding process. Yeah. So the self as a verb, the self as a something that is fluid and changing. And so yes, it may be true to say in any given moment, I am angry, and that's a useful statement. And I certainly, I might say that and wish for someone to acknowledge that. Can you see that I'm angry? But at the same time, I'm not angry. That's not the truth of who I am, because it's just something that's appearing. In the next moment, I might be happy. Yeah. And then I'm excited. And then, and it's this flow, which is not who we really are, but which we identify strongly with, and which pulls us through, and is our dukkha, our suffering. So truth, we don't bypass and be like, well, I'm a spiritual person now, or I understand that I'm not my feelings, and so then I don't have the feelings. Like, we're not trying to avoid them. It's both true that I am angry in this moment, and I am not anger itself. I'm free. In the next moment, I'm going to be something else, like this. Whatever, in fact, whatever we identify with, right? Where our attention goes, where we, what we identify with, we become, you could say. And maybe this could be part of our discussion tonight. You could talk about your experience with this, an understanding of this, and begin to investigate it. It might be something that you're quite familiar with, this idea. So truthfulness, I've heard teachers say, to do the path, like to see through the self to the ultimate truth, you need to have a good, solid ego to begin with, right? So we need to have a healthy sense of self. We need to feel like we matter and we're cared for, and that our needs are met in the way that we ordinarily think about ourselves. And then we have this opportunity to see that that's not real in a lasting way. It's when the conditions are there for us to be happy, we're happy, and when they're there, for grieving, there's grief, and I'm neither of those things. Not in any fixed way. So impermanence. Yeah, it's liberating. Yeah, but let's discuss that. But I think before we get into talking about the truthfulness as an idea, which I've just been describing, what I'd love to do is find out how your practice is going. I thought about this one before we came on the call. Is like, could I just like put it right out there? Like, will you be truthful with me and tell me if you've meditated today? Do you want to be honest with the group and say, you know what, I haven't meditated once since I started 100 days, or I have been. Do you know what? But I don't mean it as a putting on the spot, like this is a competition. But we have to get honest with, do I want to be a meditator, or do I actually meditate? Or do I want to be kind to myself, or am I actually kind to myself? Am I actually practicing? It's easy to do this well, the 100 days. And what it's called, an at-home meditation retreat. And the way that a retreat works, or even a formal meditation practice works, is it's like marking out an area and observing what's in it. It's a container, right? So the truth is, you're doing it just by remembering that you're doing it. And then whether you think you're doing good or bad, it's a matter of relative truth, isn't it? Like, and then, yeah, it's so tricky to talk about without making it sound like it's the power of positive thinking, or it's like Pollyanna, like how wonderful, like you just keep telling yourself you're doing well, right? But what I'm pointing to is if you choose to say, I'm doing this well, then you're doing it well. And if you choose to say, I'm failing at this, then you're failing at it, right? Because you're the one that is placing the marker of what is good and bad. Yeah? Relative to what? And so none of it matters in terms of how it's done. It's that you're, like Mike said, you're aware you're doing it. It's giving you this ability to step back. That's what I mean by container. You're stepping outside and looking in. This is what my day was like. I didn't remember to say my mantra, or I did. I did, I liked what Paula had to say too, about being intentional first thing in the morning. Like you set the tone for your day rather than feeling like you wake up and the life's already chasing your tail and you're like running for it. So you pause and you create the space for yourself to settle and calm down, which doesn't necessarily mean a formal practice, but it could just be 2 mindful breaths and some affection for yourself. Yeah, so I really appreciate everyone's checking in, and that's kind of the idea with this format too, is to see that this is, however you're doing it is enough, right? And if maybe an edge to look at is, if you feel like it's not enough, could you be softer with yourself? Could you be easier on yourself? It is how it is. Can that be okay? And what you start to see is our craziness. I was teasing Mike today about it, like, did you know you married a crazy person? But we're all a little bit crazy. And when we can be honest about that that's just what the mind is like, we can relax a little, and then it gets easier. If we are not crushing ourselves with expectations and stories about how we're not good enough, there's actually no problem. And Andrea's example was beautiful. Like, just let the sun come up on the sun's terms. And could you take that and put it on the people in your life? Like, you know what? My boss is going to behave like that. He's just like the sun. He's his own nature. And we let him do him. Yeah, and we deal with just ourselves because it's enough. And then we give ourselves the grace. Like, I'm not going to do anything perfectly. Well, that's a relief. Maybe I could just show up and enjoy whatever's coming. Yeah. And the continuous practice of it, where we watch the mind and watch ourselves, we start to see, yeah, it's just a lot of trip that we're laying on ourselves. Or it's been like, we're laying it on ourselves. It might have come from the way we were conditioned as children. We have these scripts running. I should be like this. It needs to happen like that. And so with the container of the practice, where we're practicing self-awareness or observant, it's like we then can insert the curiosity. Really, does it have to be like that? Could it just be okay as it is? Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, maybe I'll be quiet and see if that sparks anything else. We did, we could either continue our group discussion here, or we could have 5 minutes in dyads if people want to do that. What do you think, Paula? Carol's got someone in her life who's facing the end of life. And so we talked about truthfulness in this capacity, is when we have taken care of ourselves and we have some ability to be real and honest with ourselves, we can offer that to others. And end of life is some place where it's exceptionally poignant, because people are facing the truth of the end of, end of life. And to accompany someone in that space willingly, again, back to Andrea's example of the sun rises and sets on its own term. This body lives and dies on its conditioning, and no matter how much we want to control it, we don't have control. And to be honest about that and be able to be with someone in an honest way about the conditions that we find ourselves in is super powerful. Yeah, like honesty also gets to what really matters. Yeah. So, any other thoughts to share? And this is where it's like an inner martial art, where we have to train it and work it, and then we find how we are with things. And everything that we face, it's a different opportunity, but we want to remain balanced. We want to not be unconsciously reactive. Yeah, we speak in a necessary way, in a kind way, not just it's not about keeping the peace at all cost, right? And the trusting yourself, right? Because honesty leads to trust within ourselves and with other people. And I think you're onto something there with the timing is about you as much as anybody else, right? Mm-hmm. All right, let's do just a brief dedication. So this is another opportunity for a moment of mindfulness. You could close the eyes if you want, just relax your shoulders, come back into the feeling of the body. Yeah. You can even become aware of like the energy of having spoken or listened and shared, and the kind of exchange in the group. Mind gets excited and it calms back down, and just honoring yourself, your feelings, your energy. And if there's a feeling of warmth towards the group that that just expressed verbally, and I certainly feel very grateful to the group. And so you could acknowledge or honor each other's presence. If you're inclined to, you could bring your hands to the heart. We imagine sharing any feeling of goodwill, safety, strength with others, our family and friends, our community. You can imagine it, this feeling from the heart travels to all hearts around the earth, human and animal. May there be an end to confusion and greed and hatred. May there be peace.